At Virtu Motors, it's all in the people.
My love of Spitfires came as a small boy. Working on Spitfires is a huge responsibility, and the same applies at work.
I'm a Punjabi singer. I've got a passion for singing, and I always loved cars.
When I'm photographing the car, I try and picture myself as the customer, so the photos have to look really good.
The care, passion and attention to detail people at Virtu Motors invest in the things they love will help you choose your next perfect car. Because at Virtu Motors,
it's all in the detail.
Good afternoon everyone and welcome to SAFC Live. Sunderland are finally back on home soil. It feels like it's been ages, doesn't it, Danny, who's alongside me as ever? And it's a big game. It is Middlesbrough at home. 12:30 kickoff here at the Stadium of Light. Danny, how do you feel about this afternoon?
Well, firstly, it has been a while, almost a month, hasn't it, since that Burnley game. A while back now, a couple of trips on the road, obviously the international break as well. And yeah, back on home soil after a disappointing, especially second half, wasn't it, last week down at Plymouth. Result as well, but listen, we've had a great start so far. Try and put that one to bed and kick on again today against what is one of our local rivals.
Let's give you the team news then ahead of today's 12:30 kickoff. There's already lots of people in the stadium. There's going to be a fan display as well before kickoff, so lots to look forward to. But let's have a look at the Sunderland side if we can. It is live on the Sky Broadcasting service this afternoon in the United Kingdom, this game. So there's a lot of cameramen and media people behind the scenes. But of course we are broadcasting around the world here on SAFC Live. So that's your starting 11 and bench, Danny Collins. Danny, there's been one change.
Well, it has, yeah, and it's Dan Ballard, isn't it? We weren't sure after the game last week down at Plymouth. We obviously see him at the full-time whistle, stay down getting some treatment. Dropped down to the bench, so obviously hasn't recovered from that, but it's an opportunity for one of the new signings, Chris Mepham, to come in, make his debut. Obviously you had a good chat with him during the week.
I'll try my best.
Yeah, and it's a good one for him to come into, isn't it, as I just mentioned there, against one of your local rivals there. We're looking to try and get back on track, and he comes into the side in a good position.
Let's have a quick look at Middlesbrough then, for the first time this afternoon. They too make a change, Danny.
Yeah, just the one change for themselves. Dan Barlasser dropping down to the bench and Morris coming into midfield in his place as well. And just looking at Middlesbrough, I think they've had a mixed start. They had a mixed season last year really, where they struggled to get going, then they picked up, dropped off again and then finished quite strong, and I think they finished just outside the playoffs. But yeah, from Michael Carrick's point of view, he certainly will be looking to get, worst case, into the playoffs this season. Good test for us again. They've got some dangerous players, good individuals throughout the pitch, pace in the side as well. I think they'll come here and try and dominate the ball. They like to try and get on it and almost dominate us. Now obviously we're at home in front of 40-odd thousand Sunderland fans who aren't going to be too happy if Middlesbrough are sitting on the ball and popping it around at will. So we've got to get back to where we started quite well in terms of going and pressing teams, get that energy level back, which wasn't quite there, certainly in that second half last week for me. At Plymouth, we sort of sat off too much second half. Did we get caught after the international break? Possibly.
Yeah. And we need a reaction from that game, don't we? The fans want to see reaction, because in that game, it wasn't the Sunderland we've seen so far this season, was it?
No, I thought even first half, yeah, we got the penalty, got the goal, and I felt like we played within ourselves, almost in second gear, really. And then we were expecting, right, we're in front now. Patrick's tucked away the penalty. Can we go and kick on, go and get that second goal, get the cushion, but then come out second half, couldn't get out of our half. Romain, to be fair to him, I thought was decent. He tried to drive us forward, get us up the pitch, and obviously got us back into it. When we get to 2-2, we're obviously thinking we're going to be the team now. The momentum's with us, but unfortunately it didn't happen, and they go and get the winner. So yes, it was a setback, but you've got to bounce back this afternoon.
We'll look back at the footage in a moment. I just want to draw your attention to my T-shirt here. You'll notice that all the players as well. I'm trying to get on my tiptoes there just to show you the full shirt. But you'll notice that all the players are wearing this shirt as well. It's all about if you care, the letter U, if you care, share, charity, and all the lads. Both sets of teams actually are wearing these T-shirts before kick-off. And if you were to Google "if you care share," you'll find the website and find out more about this great charity doing great stuff in difficult circumstances in the northeast as well. Let's have a look back at the action then from Sunderland's last visit to the south coast. Of course, it wasn't a happy trip down in the end, all the way down. 3-2 defeat against Plymouth Argyle. And Danny, you can talk us through some of the action if you don't mind.
Yeah, no, I thought in general we started quite well in terms of controlling the game. I just didn't think that zip was there, what we've seen from us in recent weeks, really. We didn't move the ball as well as we can. Listen, it was quite a hot day down there. But, tend to not use that as an excuse. We just weren't quite at it. The players could obviously sense that themselves, but in general we did have good control in that first half especially. And then obviously when we do go on to get the goal, which we'll obviously see in a minute from the penalty, there was obviously, it was one of them. Was there a contact there? Only those two players know that were involved in it. It was Barley Mumba, wasn't it, who caught the back of Chris Rigg.
It's all about the reactions of the other players during that period of time, Danny, because Barley initially protested but then kind of swallowed it.
Yeah, there wasn't too much. It's always a good gauge, isn't it, as you say, go off the players, and they didn't really. Here it is now, isn't it? Look, almost just clips his heel. Now listen, the Plymouth fans are honestly say there's nothing there. Sometimes it doesn't look like that. I've been in this situation myself. You run behind the player, accidental little tap on the heel, just enough to clip him, and he goes down. The players
really weren't protesting it, were they?
And then obviously with Jack moving on, you think he was going to be on penalties. Well, Patrick's stepped up, fancied it. He's been in good form this season, full of confidence, and good penalty, sends the keeper the wrong way. And now we're thinking we're in the driver's seat. They've struggled so far this season. We've obviously won 4 games out of 4 going into it. Can we go and kick on? Go and take the game by the scruff of the neck. Go and get that second goal. But it just didn't happen for us. We didn't really work the keeper too much throughout the remainder of that first half as well, either, did we?
Do you think if Sunderland were to have gotten that second goal in the first half, it would have killed Plymouth off? Because when you go in at the break, only 1 goal up, it gives them something to play for, doesn't it?
Yeah, of course. You're always in it on your 1-0, exactly that. Yeah, it just takes one moment in a game, really, isn't it? Somebody switches off or an error, and
look at that, it was close, that one as well.
Yeah, but I thought again, Romain in the first half we had a lot of good play, generally down the right hand side, but Romain had moments as well, and then certainly in the second half. And as I said there, he was the bright spot for us going forward, and since he's come into the team in place of Jack, really, he's took his opportunity. He's been excellent. He's got himself 3 goals, and hopefully he kicks on from there. But yeah, just once we get into the second half, don't we? We weren't quite set. There's the first one now. Great save from Anthony Patterson. He's going the wrong way. Reaction save, gets his hand onto it.
I mean, this would have been save of the season.
Yeah, and then Dan Ballard's unfortunate. Generally, you're running back there, so obviously, clear it off the line. Cannons off him, can't do anything about it. And then they're back on level terms. And they probably, you'd say, deserved it, really, because they spent a lot of time in our half. They'd upped it themselves, give them credit. They pressed us a little bit higher. They moved the ball quite quick in that second half, Plymouth, and looked after it better than what they did in the first half. And then they're back on level terms, weren't they? And then, as you can see, we did struggle to get out, but we're going to have moments like that, and it's the first sort of test, really, that we had so far this season.
I want to mention a couple of players to you, Danny, Romain Mundell and Joe Edwards, who ended up having a big say in the game.
Yeah.
But they both had a decent game, didn't they?
Yeah. It was a good battle, wasn't it, all afternoon? A bit of a ding-dong going on, and that incident, I'm not sure whether we'll see it, where Romain got booked for it.
Yeah, but
Joe Edwards didn't get booked for it. I think they booked the centre-half instead, and he got away with it. And I think he got booked a few minutes later, and then obviously he's on that yellow card then. But we're saying, I remember on comms, kiss the death from ourselves. When we go level, we're thinking we're going to go and kick on now. The momentum's with us, the fans behind that goal, they're probably thinking, oh no, here we go again. But
penalty here.
Yeah, he gets the first one wrong, doesn't he, Dan? No, he's been excellent, and he just has a bit of a swipe at it, doesn't get the connection he's after, and then panic sets in. There he just shunts him in his back, doesn't he? Gives away the penalty. And Hardy as well, just come off the bench there, steps up, and similar to Patrick, sent to keep it the wrong way. And then that's where we're at now. We're thinking, right, here's your test, boys. First time we've been behind this season. How are we going to react from it? And to be fair to the boys, they did in a way, really. We tried to get Mayenda into it. He didn't have too many clear-cut opportunities himself, but he was a bit of a handful. You see him there rolling his centre-back in the box and being a bit of a threat, really. But credit to the boys, they stuck in there, they kept on going. Here we go again now on the attack, and there's Mayenda. You know, that's what he's got. Look at his little burst of pace there. Now, need to see more from him like this, in and around the edge of the box, back himself. You know, be confident. He's a big, strong lad. He's sharp over 10 yards, and he's got to show that a little bit more, really. And then, yeah, we were just hoping, weren't we? Thinking, are we going to get the opportunity?
And when this goes in,
now. Yeah, here it
you're
comes.
thinking it's a good point on the road.
And as we say, it was almost a carbon copy of his goal against Burnley, wasn't it? Where he picked it up in this area, back here at the Stadium of Light against Burnley, shifted it and finds that far side netting, and it was exactly the same. And you see his reaction there, getting the fans going. They're up behind the goal, and you're thinking, right, come on, boys, can we kick on now and go and get that winner? And yeah, we had one or two opportunities. It was that Isidore, I think, off the bench, wasn't it? Getting the strike away. Here's Romain again, trying to get their angles against Isidore there. I think he's maybe trying to just cushion it there across the 6-yard line. But yeah, just can't get the angle on it, looking to get it back. And then you're thinking, look, we're knocking on the door, then out of nothing, really. Half a strike raise at Bali Mumba, wasn't it, that occasion? And if you look at this one, and then the goal that they actually win with, you see what Pato, listen, I'm not a keeper, but what I say he does well there, palms it away from danger, doesn't he? And then unfortunately on this one, which turns out to be the winner, strike comes in. It's probably moving a little bit. You see there now, centre back gets the strike away, dips in front of him, but parries it into a dangerous area. And there's Joe Edwards. He's moving towards the goal. As you see, defenders, they're static. You're watching it. You're hoping your keeper can deal with it, but unfortunately, from our point of view, we don't deal with it, and that's the difference. 3 points to Plymouth, and we get back on the coach with nothing.
Okay, when we return after the break, we'll speak to a club historian, Rob Mason, who's joined us pitch side. And remember, you can get your matchday streaming passes right now around the world at safc.com. We'll see you soon. Welcome back to SAFC Live. We're pitch side. 12:30 kickoff against Middlesbrough here, and our friend Rob Mason has joined us pitch side. A very historic northeast game of football this afternoon.
Absolutely, looking forward to it. Always a big game against Middlesbrough. I know there's always the debate, is it a derby? Yes, undoubtedly it is a derby. It's not the derby, there's an important difference. I would personally give you 10 wins over Middlesbrough for 1 over Newcastle, but it's still nice to beat Middlesbrough. And yes, a good northeast derby, big game, good team Middlesbrough, tough match for Sunderland this afternoon, but I'm confident we're going to do well, Frankie.
And you've got a couple of stats for today's game, one regarding a player and one regarding the opposition as well.
Yeah, it's a day for bicentenaries. 200 is the important number. Luca Nye today makes his 200th start in the league for Sunderland, and hopefully will score at least a couple of goals. And the second goal Sunderland should score this afternoon, if we do, will be the 200th time we've scored in the league against Middlesbrough in our entire history.
And of course we've had lots of players who have played for both sides as well. There's some of them even in the ground this afternoon, even on their bench as well. Grant Ledbetter's on their bench as well, and I think as Stuart Downey might be involved in their setup as
he
well.
Was, yeah,
he certainly was.
As well, yeah,
there's been a lot of crossover over the years, hasn't there?
Absolutely, huge crossover with Sunderland and Middlesbrough, as you would expect with local clubs. Some great names. People like Lee Cattermole, for instance, in recent vintage, and Grant Ledbetter you've just mentioned. And then looking down the history books, people like the top of the list would probably be Brian Clough. But going back further, people like Johnny Spuler from the 30s, lots and lots of history between the two clubs.
And there's been a kind of memorial this week, hasn't there? Because 20 years since Brian Clough passed away, a huge figure in northeast football. There's that famous quote, of course, where he says that his happiest times of playing football was at Sunderland.
Yeah, and one of his other famous quotes is, Jimmy Greaves, Alan Shearer, Gary Lineker, eat your hearts out, because I scored 250 league goals before any of you did, in fewer games. And the fact that Brian Clough is known as such a famous manager, obviously taking both Derby and Nottingham Forest to the league title, winning the European Cup in back-to-back seasons with Nottingham Forest, should never overshadow the fact that he was a phenomenal goal scorer for both Middlesbrough and Sunderland, and was the first, the quickest player in history, I think, to score those 250 league goals. Many of them for Borough, but then when he came to Sunderland, he was averaging close to a goal a game before his injury that ruined his career. At the time he did get injured on Boxing Day in the early 60s against Bury, when he was up against Bob Stoker, who was the Bury centre-half. He had 28 goals that season in 28 games, and the fact he got injured really cost Sunderland promotion that season. He did try to make a comeback about 2 or 3 years later, but only had 3 games before he had to retire. But a tremendous goal scorer, one of the greatest goal scorers in the history of the game, and all of those goals were scored for the two teams we're going to watch on the pitch behind us this afternoon.
And anyone who saw him play, particularly on the Sunderland terraces, will remember such a great player, won't they? If you speak to anyone who went to the games in that era, they'll always say Brian Clough.
Absolutely, he was a tremendous goal scorer, a poacher of a goal scorer. You didn't come away from many games of Brian Clough and say, if only there'd been somebody there in the right place at the right time that took that in, because Brian Clough was the kind of player who read the game so well. He knew how to be Johnny on the spot. He knew where the ball was going to land. He knew which angle it was going to come off the goalkeeper or whatever, ready for the tap in, and he would be there. And his goals for games record illustrates that what I'm saying is fact, not fiction. And a tremendous goal scorer for Sunderland, and would have had an even better record but for that injury.
Danny, back to 2024, the game this afternoon.
Yeah.
Both sides have made a change. How do you see the game going? Because it's still early in the season, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, you look at form and just look where we were last week against Plymouth. On paper, you'd have fancied us going down to home park, picking up the result, but football doesn't work like that. Middlesbrough had an indifferent start, if we're honest. Won a couple, obviously. Other results haven't gone their way. Had a bit of a hiding in the cup. Obviously, they changed the side that day, but they've got some good individuals in that team out there. You look at top end of the pitch, good energy. Isaiah Jones, when we played against him, he's been a threat down the right-hand side. I think Lati Lath, top end of the pitch, he's quick and he's lively around the box. So, obviously, interesting to see how Chris Mepham gets on with his debut up against him there. But from our point of view, get back to where we were a few weeks ago. Good energy, move the ball quicker, go and press us a little bit higher. I thought we sat off a little bit too much last week, especially in that second half at Plymouth. But the most important thing is, stats aside, go out there and win the game. Keep chalking up the results and keep sitting at that top end of the table.
Yeah, and we want a reaction to the game last week down at Plymouth, won't we? Because that wasn't the Sunderland side we've seen in the previous 4 games, was it, Rob?
No, not really. It was a bit disappointing last week, but yet we should have probably won the game. I thought we were in control at half-time. Credit to Plymouth, they came out and got on top. And then once we got the equaliser late on, perhaps some teams would have shut up shop and just taken the point. But this team is an attacking team, it's a youthful team, it's a confident team, and they thought the game was there to be won and they tried to go and win the game. Pity it didn't happen, but we've got 12 points from 5 games. Everybody would have taken that at the beginning of the season. I'm looking for 15 from 6 after this afternoon, but I recognise it's a really hard game against the side I expect to be comfortably in the top 6 come the end of the season. And of course the last home game against Burnley was a tough game as well, but we were at it and we did beat Burnley. We need a repeat this afternoon.
So just on that one, Rob, I think it was Portsmouth game a couple of weeks ago where you said, I'll take a point before the game. You're not settling for your point today then? No, you fancy us for all 3?
No. You know me, Danny, old-fashioned as I am, I like to win me home games, and I'm happy with a point
points
away.
on the road, okay.
Take points on the road. Although the start we'd made, I actually was after 3 at Plymouth, being greedy.
Oh, there you go.
But yeah, home games, whoever comes to see it, look, it's our ground, it's our crowd, it's our team. We're talking about it being a hard game for Middlesbrough, a hard game for Sunderland rather. Let me tell you, it's a very hard game for Middlesbrough as well. Coming to this vibrant, young, attacking, confident Sunderland team with this crowd behind them. If Middlesbrough go home with a point this afternoon, they'll be happy, let me tell you that. They're capable of winning. Middlesbrough are definitely capable of winning. But so is Sunderland, and I'm optimistic that the result's going to go the right way, because we are looking for that reaction from last week at Plymouth.
And mentality is important this afternoon. We saw almost a year ago that Dan Neil was sent off in this fixture. Really spoiled quite a good game, that, doesn't it? And then obviously they went on and scored 4 in the second half. They've got to be, really thoughtful of how they approach this game, Sunderland players, don't they?
Absolutely. Well, they'll have learned. Dan particularly will have learned from that. Last season, I thought was a really good first half against Middlesbrough. I thought Sunderland was slightly the better of the two sides, but Middlesbrough were doing decently as well. But we were slightly on top. The game completely turned with what was a controversial, shall I say politely, a controversial sending off of Dan Neil, and Middlesbrough, to their credit, took maximum benefit from that in the second half and exposed us. And we left far too much space all over the place. Perhaps at that time we should have closed up and looked for a point at home, being down to 10 men. But they took us apart in the second half. We need to keep 11 players on the pitch this afternoon, obviously, and if we can do that, then the problem should all come at the Middlesbrough end.
No, I was going to say, as you say there, ideally, yeah, you want 11v11. Going back to that one last year, I thought we were the better team in the first half. Obviously, Dan gets sent off, and I thought we were a bit naive in the second half. We almost come out and tried to carry on playing as if we had the extra man in a way, really, and they popped us off and said they got good pace on the counter-attack as well. But yeah, I've played in a couple of these games, obviously. Is it a derby, is it not? Well, you're going on the side of it is. Obviously, they've got good following at the top end there behind us as well. They're expecting their team to come up here today and go away with the points as well. But yeah, it's going to be an interesting one. A bit of a fiery start. By all means, go and win your tackles if it's there to be won, but try and keep a lid on it a little bit.
Rob, you are done. You can go and find your seat now. Thank you very much. It's always good to have you on the show, and we'll see you next time. So Rob Mason there, our club historian. Let's give you a look at the Sunderland side if you have just joined us here on SFC Live this afternoon. This is your starting 11 and bench for Sunderland. Just the one change, Danny Collins.
Yeah, as we mentioned there, Chris Metman coming in for his debut for the club. An interesting one for him, isn't it? It's a good one though. I think if I was in his position, certainly be looking forward to it. You come to your new club, you want to get in as soon as you can. He's got the opportunity now. Obviously, Dan Ballard dropping down to the bench, maybe still feeling that knock what he picked up at the end of the game last week at Plymouth. But it's a big opportunity for him. He's got good experience. He's played Premier League.
Excellent experience.
He's got caps under his belt for Wales. So I don't think it'll faze him too much. He'll almost enjoy it. You want to, as a player, you want to play in front of these 40,000 plus crowds against, as you said there, one of your local rivals. The atmosphere will be good in here this afternoon. And he'll want to keep the clean sheets, obviously get in there and try and nail down a starting place. Yeah,
we're expecting well over 40,000 here at the Stadium Light this afternoon. You've played, sellouts here, Danny, in the past. It gives you that extra little bit, doesn't it?
No, it does, yeah. I just remembered, actually, I seen in the programme, it was a game we played. I think we beat Middlesbrough 2-0 that day, and Lee Cattermole was on the opposite team, and I knocked one past him on the far sideline. He come and smashed me, pick up a yellow card, and then I was playing with him a season or two later when he joined the club, so we had a bit of a laugh and a joke about that one. But as you say, that's what gets the fans going in here. They enjoy a crunching challenge, a Trey Hume special, whether it be 2 minutes or the 88th minute, going in, by all means winning the ball, but leaving a little bit on someone maybe as well, as much as a goal sometimes, and it picks the crowd up. The players sense that in there as well, and it gives them that little bit of a nudge to kick on and go on and try and win the game.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, Middlesbrough, they've kind of stuttered this season so far. Yeah. Michael Carrick, he likes to see his side playing football. Is that the kind of approach we'll see this afternoon from them?
I think so, yeah. I mean, as you mentioned, I just had a quick chat with Grant there where he was putting out the markers, setting up the warm-up drills, and I sort of said about the way they're set up, how they don't look to play. And he said, yeah, obviously they try and dominate the ball, and he touched on the fact that what we mentioned about ourselves, where we're only averaging around 43-44% possession this season. So we sort of said, we know what you're all about. Obviously, we'll try and dominate the ball and keeping an eye on you on the counter-attack. So, you know, it's not daft. People are cottoning on to what we've done different this season a little bit. But the fact is, if we are going to play that way, especially in front of 40,000 of our own fans, when we've got the ball, they want to see us doing something with it. And obviously, we've got to move the ball quick. And we've got the players in the team. Patrick's been excellent this season, looks back to himself. Romain, as I mentioned there, he's taken his opportunity, he's got himself goals. He never stops running. I love his work rate as well, helping out, working back towards our goal.
Yeah.
And obviously you've got options on the bench as well to come on and play them roles. Isidore, I've liked what I've seen of him so far as well. You know, even Tommy Watson, players who can carry the ball up the pitch. So if we are going to set up and almost be a counter-attacking side more often than not, then you've got to have the tools to do that, and we've got those.
Thanks, Danny. We're going to go to our gantry positions in a moment. I just want to mention an event that the Foundation of Light are doing on the 27th of September. So Bob Murray is going to do a talk-in down in London. So if you're part of the London branch or you're a fan down that neck of the woods, you want to go and see Bob Murray in conversation, go to the Foundation of Light's website and get more details on that. That's happening on the 27th of September. Right, myself and Danny, as I said, are going to go to our commentary positions halfway up in the west stand. You can see there's also going to be a fan display in the stadium before kick-off. We'll show you all that here on SAFC Live. If you are watching around the world, don't forget to get your match streaming passes right now at safc.com. We'll be back very soon.
At Virtu Motors, it's all in the people.
My love of Spitfires came as a small boy. Working on Spitfires is a huge responsibility, and the same applies at work.
I'm a Punjabi singer. I've got a passion for singing, and I always loved cars.
When I'm photographing the car, I try and picture myself as the customer, so the photos have to look really good.
The care, passion and attention